cancellation, or postponing rather, of that fireside chat. But everything happens for a reason, and now you get to see the whole scene. What I am going to do is reposition the vehicle quickly so that we can get to see Karula from a different view. And we're going to pop you across onto James's vehicle for a quick update on how his morning's getting along as we get into the next spot.
Well, everybody, good morning and welcome, as Scott, I'm sure, has said to you, to Safari Live. And sometimes one is richly blessed in the morning. Karula on a kill, and this magnificent breeding herd of buffalo now moving gently to the east and north, possibly to the fresh grazing grasses that have come up as a result of the wonderful rains we've had over the last 2 days. My name is James Henry. On camera we have Tebs today. Hello Tebs, morning now. And we are going to spend some time with these buffalo. And we'll probably also then go and see if we can't find some lions lurking around the place. We haven't had any for a while, and I thought 2 days ago when we found these buffalo that they would be sort of followed behind by a number of lions. The sticks were around, the 3 remaining Birminghams were around, but the Nkahuma pride, we don't really know where they are at the moment. So that doesn't seem to have happened, but wonderful to spend a little bit of time with this fairly large, I'd say probably 400 or 500 strong herd of buffalo that have been streaming past us now for the last 10 or 12 minutes, which is just very wonderful. Don't often get these herds, and after the rain that we've had, here comes a funny old boy, after the rain we've had over the last 2 days, I think you'll find that these buffalo are going to start putting on condition very quickly because of the amazing amount of grass that will spring out of the ground. This chap doesn't look to be in a particularly good way. He's got a bit of a hanging bottom lip. So often we will tell you that there are big buffalo bulls that live on their own when they get a bit old to be with the herd, and they can't compete for mating opportunities. But you know, looking through this herd here, like that bull that just walked past, he is in no way in his prime. He looks to be much older than his prime to me, and I suspect that the buffaloes probably don't necessarily always go off and live on their own when they've had enough of trying to breed. I think probably those bachelor herds, the bachelor bulls that we get, will join up with herds like this and then drop off again, simply because if there are no females in estrus, there's very little point for them to them being around a herd like this. There's a chap with enormous horns. He looks like a longhorn steer. Just to the left of him. There we go. No, staring at us to the left. Amazing. You see that one there, Tebs? There's the longhorn steer at the back. That's him. Right. Now, as beautiful as buffalo are, they don't quite match the magnificence of Karula, Queen of Juma. So I think we'll sit with these chaps for a bit longer, and then, but while we're doing that, we're going to hand you back to look at Karula, the Queen of Juma, with Scott. See you just now.
Wow, what a morning we're getting off to here. And who knows, maybe there are some lion interested in that herd of buffalo that James has found. Strong likelihood lion do like to follow large herds of buffalo. This big cat, as you know, has already got her meal stashed up in a tree nearby. You can see her belly is full. And if she manages to keep that kill up in the tree, she could well be here for the next 24 to 48 hours at least. It's a lot of meat for one leopardess to feed on. I must say though that she hasn't got it very high up in this jackalberry tree. And I'd like to just take a closer look at this kill, because what may happen is that a hyena may come onto the scene. It's very windy, as you can tell, and the scent may be getting carried off far and wide, and hyena, who've got very strong senses of smell, as well as lion, I guess, could well come and try and steal this from her. And because it's not hoisted up high in this tree, we could get an entertaining scene of a hyena or possibly lion jumping up and trying to pull this carcass down. Obviously, we don't necessarily want to wish for that, but it is a prospect that could well unfold. Take a closer look. You can see what I mean. It's not very high. And Safari Haze, you've also pointed that out, so well done for noticing that. I'm guessing, guys, I don't know what you think, but I'm saying probably around 1.5 meters off the ground. And a hyena would fairly easily be able to jump up and latch onto either the nose of that impala or one of the hooves, and then try and wrestle it down from the tree. What's interesting is it looks like she did have the kill slightly higher up. I'm not sure if we're too far away, but if you can just zoom into the branches just above where that impala carcass is now. No, we can't tell from here, but we will reposition a little bit later. As we came in, it was interesting, we could see some blood stained, and also rumen, the stomach contents, and it was stained kind of up. It looked like the kill had been a little bit higher up over there. And what may have happened, interesting stuff, there are 2 hyena at the Wium waterhole. Nothing's happening here. Let's head right there and see what happens. Karula's fast asleep. We are going to come back here, everyone, but let's try and see what happens. We're very close to the Wium waterhole, and whoever sent us those reports that the hyena are there, thank you very, very much. For those of you who may be joining Safari Live for the first time, we get incredible information from this live waterhole camera, and this morning is no different. And what are the odds of them popping up almost on cue? We were just chatting about the likelihood of hyena coming onto the scene. Okay, we're going to have to hurry up. They are heading up, it sounds like, in the opposite direction to where this kill is. So it sounds like Karula's impala is safe. I just want to hurry on because I would love to get you a view of them. Somewhere down to the left there. You may notice the roads have all been washed smooth by a lot of rain. I'm not sure exactly how many millimeters we got, or inches. Probably around 20 millimeters, I'm guessing, so a decent downpour of rain. I wonder if we're going to get a visual of them. Can't see them at this stage. There's Peter in his pan, a hippo that was named by Kevin just a few days ago. He's the local resident. Okay, now life on safari can be full of ups and downs, and this is one of those moments. The hyena have disappeared somewhere across on this side of the Wium waterhole, and we're going to slowly make our way back to Karula. Hyena are moving quite quickly, obviously, and while we head back to Karula, James is going to take you on a little bit of an adventure.
So these buffalo are now just about sort of going to cross to Buffalo's Hook, which is the reserve to the north of us. I think that they're probably about 500 or 600 here. They are all the way behind us on the road. They're all the way in front of us, and they're still crossing. They've been crossing now the boundary for about, well, in a broad phalanx for about 20 minutes. So I think at least sort of 500 or 600 strong, huge herd of buffalo. And I'm surprised that there aren't any lions coming up behind them. That will happen eventually, no doubt. Lions do enjoy buffalo in this area, and so I'm sure they will come about here fairly soon. But what we'll do, once they have all crossed, is we'll head across to Buffelshoek Dam and see if we can't... Sorry, I've missed the radio communication. My earpiece fell out. It'll come again. Go again. The comment that I missed was from Larry. Thank you, Larry. You say you want to see a lion wrapped around a buffalo's neck. Larry, I'm sure the buffalo wouldn't appreciate that sentiment at all. But yes, it would be fascinating to see, and certainly not entirely improbable around here. Buffalo are generally fall victim to lions quite a lot. Let us, for the moment, appreciate the living buffalo, unharassed as they are, and enjoying the flush of spring grass that is now coming out of the ground. Thank you, Larry. Huge, huge herd. We don't know, like I say, the two prides that we watch mainly are the sticks and the inkahumas. Not that we've seen either of them very much lately. We don't know where they are. Well, we know vaguely where the sticks are. We know they've been hanging around just to the east of us with two of the Birmingham boys. Well, certainly one of them has. The Salalas are back at Londolozi, and the inkahumas, well, they've just absconded. Stop here. A brief last look at them as they disappear. And the Birmingham boys seem to have split up a bit, so that's also quite interesting. You know, there are the five of them, and one was quite badly injured the other day. We think maybe had a conflict with the other two, and then two of them have disappeared. Just roll slowly back a little bit. The lined for their similarity to cattle. I think cattle can be rather magnificent, and I think these are even better. All right, let's go back to Scott. Our signal isn't very stable. We'll leave these buffalo and leopard.
So we've just got back to the kill, and this is what I wanted to show you earlier. Quite interesting that even though we haven't been here the whole night, we can still piece together puzzles of what went on. And if you look very closely, you may notice there's a slight kind of red tinge up onto that branch there just above the leaves. You can see that quite clearly. And if Wium just goes down a little bit, you'll notice there's also a little bit of stomach content or lining that's rubbed against the tree there. So obviously she had hoisted the kill higher up into this tree at some stage last night, and it's not as easy as you may think it is. Also what's interesting is that you can see those puncture wounds on the impala's neck, and that is in all likelihood where she latched on to the impala once she had caught it, and she would have latched onto this area in order to suffocate it. So really interesting stuff this. We don't often get to analyze a carcass like this, and again, great prospects. Unfortunate for this poor female impala. You'll also notice that there's little patches of her fur missing higher up on her body. Karula would have been plucking that fur off. She hasn't done a very serious job. I don't know if it's better with the lights on or off, probably just a little bit. But you can see there little patches of fur missing, and she will be doing a lot more plucking of fur as she continues to make her way through feeding on this carcass. Now we've discussed the likelihood of lion and hyena trying to steal this carcass. And Chris Rogue has just asked whether a python may steal it, and highly unlikely, Chris Rogue, but anything is possible out here in nature. Snakes will more commonly feed on and prey on living animals. They're not prone to scavenging, as far as I'm aware, especially wild snakes. I think captive snakes may be taught otherwise, but I've never heard of that happening. If any of you have heard of a python stealing a kill, or even coming across a carcass and feeding on it, please let us know. That would be really interesting. But Chris, like I say, I don't think that is likely. Another likely candidate of who may steal from Karula are her sons or other male leopards, possibly boyfriends, ex-boyfriends. So don't be surprised if a male leopard comes onto the scene. It won't be downright stealing, and you'll probably find that she will happily share her kill with them, and they're not going to prevent her from feeding on it further, which is probably the case with lion and hyena. Well, this is also interesting. We're just moving on to the hooves here, and this again is a view that we don't get to see very often. Now what's interesting is that these are the back legs, and they've got these kind of little black tufts, little pom-poms there, and those are scent glands.
Drive a bit closer.
Yeah, good idea. So let me just try and get a little bit closer. We can have a closer look at these scent glands. Good idea, Wium. And what's interesting is that help us to distinguish between the two species. Now, if this is in fact an egg eater, Lisa would like to know if it would have crushed the egg. And yes, Lisa, it would certainly have crushed the egg, but interestingly, it's once the whole egg is inside the mouth of the snake, usually, and then there's kind of two protrusions, tooth-like protrusions at the back of the head. The egg, just by closing its mouth, it's got those two little protrusions that it's a puncture into the egg, and once the egg is punctured, it becomes easier to crush. And that's why we... Now, like most predators, feed only on eggs, and it may have fed on something else. I'm going to try and reposition again. And thank you very much, Robin in Maryland, for letting us know that you think it is an egg eater, the rhombic egg eater, more specifically, and that is the egg eater that we do get in this area. Look at its little forked tongue there, getting closer in with the camera that is on the vehicle. Wium's at full zoom. Those are some lilac-breasted rollers having an argument around us. Thank you very much for confirming that you think it is the rhombic egg eater. I think you are right. It's a tiny little snake. Just to give you an idea, it's probably only 20 centimeters in length, which is about 7 inches. It really would be wonderful to know what it had swallowed and why it had swallowed it out in the open. That's what I don't understand. The fact that it's not in a likely place to find an egg and swallow it, but it looks like it has very recently swallowed whatever it has. So if anybody could let us know if these egg eaters will feed strictly on eggs, which I don't think is the case. I'm guessing that they may well feed on other animals. As you know, James is here and he's got a much better view of the snake than us, or a different angle at least, so we're going to pop you across onto his vehicle for a slightly different view.
So, very grateful that Scott managed to find me something to look at, which is excellent. Thank you, Scott, for that. I'm in two minds as well. I think it's too skinny to be a night adder. So I would go with egg eater on this. The one very distinguishing mark or part of an egg eater, which I can't get from this angle, is the bluntness of the nose. How blunt its nose is. They should have a pretty blunt nose, as opposed to that kind of. The night adder does have a fairly diamond-shaped head, in my experience.
It looks blunt from here, Jones.
Okay. And you've confirmed that the adder has a head shaped like a spade, and Scott reckons from his angle that this has got a fairly blunt head. So let's go with egg eater, and as long as we're all in agreement, it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, I think he's too skinny to be an adder. Those adders are quite fat little snakes. They don't tend to have that length tail on them either. What a magnificent sighting. Gee whiz. Oh, there you can see him moving now. Sticking his tongue out. And I think that pinkish tinge on his throat is probably also quite distinctive, and possibly a flowing, I don't know, in fact I don't know what it would be. Yeah, I would definitely go with egg eater on this one. It does look very painful to have that stuck in your throat though, doesn't it? That's a really lovely angle. So we're sitting probably about 2.5 meters, so about 10 feet from him. And we don't want to get too much closer because I'm sure Scott's told you he will disgorge that thing onto the ground, whatever it is, and scuttle off. But as Scott says, it's very odd that he or she is sitting there in the middle of the road, totally exposed. I mean, were a raptorous bird to come past here, or a slender mongoose, I think that snake would be in quite a lot of trouble. And also the temperature won't be helping the snake. Of course, they are ectothermic, which means they're cold-blooded, and that means that they will really struggle on a day like this. They need the ambient temperature to be high for them to function fully. And on a cold day like this, they will struggle to move around a lot. They don't make any heat of their own. And Janine, a very nice question. Are they venomous? They certainly are not poisonous. If you were to eat that snake, you would be perfectly healthy. You would probably be quite happy, actually. But are they venomous? No, an egg eater is not a venomous snake. Now, this is interesting. He's lifting his head up, smelling. That's what that tongue is doing. It's taking little particles of air, pushing them up into a hole in the top of the top palate, which is a channel to a very sensitive organ called the organ of Jacobson. And that will help this little snake interpret what it is that they're looking for. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to try and frighten it, but what I'm going to do is I don't think you've got an idea of the size of the snake. I'm going to go and stand next to it, or I'm going to stand behind it. I don't think it will affect the snake, and you can just get an idea of the size. So if you can zoom out a bit, Tebs, yeah, just zoom right out, and I'm just going to walk around quite a long distance away from it, and you'll just get an idea of my feet as they go past it. I'm not going to frighten him at all, but you'll get an idea of the size. Have you got my feet?
Yeah.
And the snake. So there you can see his size. So he looks probably a bit bigger on screen when you fully zoomed into him than he is in reality. He's maybe a foot long. He's maybe just a foot long. Beautiful little snake. Yeah, definitely I mean, when I got close like that, on closer inspection, there's no way this is a night owl. I'm sure it's an egg eater. And it looks like, I mean, when you look at him on full zoom and through the binoculars, it looks like he swallowed something the size of a chicken egg, but in fact it's probably something the size of a very small robin's egg or a weaver's egg. All right, let's head across to Scott. He's going to say goodbye to you, and I will explain what Jamie's going to be doing a little bit later.
Welcome back. We're just getting into position here with Karula again. How awesome was that little snake? And always nice to be able to actually share sightings with the other vehicle. So that was another extra added bonus, and also great for you guys because you get more than one view. Now we, like I say, have just she is looking in the direction of that tree with the kill in it, but not quite convinced that she's ready for breakfast yet. I'm guessing this afternoon may be our time then to get lucky, or who knows, maybe with Jamie's extended drive this morning you may get lucky. I'm guessing she will feed during the course of the day. But failing that this evening, I'm confident we will get you some great views of her up in the tree. So if you do have to finish your safari at the regular time this morning, make sure to try and tune in for the sunset safari. There's bound to be some great leopard action, and who knows what else will be happening. As I said earlier, I am going to be finishing the safari a little bit earlier than normal this morning because I need to get Jamie this vehicle, and she's going to be doing an extended drive until 9:30, so an extra hour and a half of drive this morning. It'll just be her out though, so give her some support if you can stay awake, if you're in different time zones to us, or if it suits you and it's early in the morning, well, just enjoy taking more time off work if you are supposed to be working today, I guess. Thank you so much for all your help and contributions to the safari. Well done to Wium on camera, to Louise and Nikki in the final control room. We're going to send you back to James, and I look forward to catching up on the sunset safari.
So we're still sitting with this funny little snake, and it is a marvelous little creature, but I think really struggling in this cold weather. I think the temperature with this wind has probably dropped another 4 degrees or so since we began, and I would put the ambient temperature here with this wind at a roughly, I wouldn't say much more than 10 to 14 degrees Celsius, and that will make it very difficult for a snake to move. They have to have heat, and they need the sun in order to fire up their metabolisms and help them to move along. And I think that's why it's moving so incredibly slowly. And it's a feeling that we really can't understand as mammals, where we produce our own heat. No matter how cold you feel, your inner core temperature hardly changes at all. And it means that you can go from 0 to sprinting speed very quickly. And the ambient temperature's got nothing to do with how fast you're able to do that. This snake, however, for it to make the effort to get to the next bush where it will be able to find some shelter, it's really going to take an enormous effort. I'm just calling in. There's another drive coming past us here, and they'll be fascinated to look at this little snake. It's a little snake. Can you see it there? Can you see it?
Yes.
We think it's an egg eater. with a little robin's egg or something stuck in its throat. But I don't think it can move because it's so cold. It's really kind of oozing along the road. Alright, everybody, we're going to head off and have a look at Karula. That's mainly because I haven't seen her today, and I feel that you should share her with me. And Tebs also wants to see Karula. Enjoy it. James Bear, you want to know how big the snake is. The snake is just short of a foot, so I'd say roughly that big. Just short of a foot. So not very large at all. And it's an interesting point, because to have found that snake in that slightly odd area, away from any kind of cover, is slightly bizarre. And Brandy, you're suggesting maybe that it was dropped by a bird. I think it's not impossible. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. It could well be that it was dropped there by a bird. It just didn't look very injured. I think it's eaten too much, to be honest, and that it's so cold now, and it's got so much colder during the course of the morning that it really is going to struggle to get out of there. But it could have been dropped by a bird. Now, we've got to try and find Karula. We know she's in a jackalberry tree around here. And I only know of one or two jackal. I can see the expired antelope hanging in the boughs. So I'm just going to get Tebs to point the camera at the impala, which is of course is something you'd be looking out for if you were walking. Now, you've all seen that today, of course, and that I haven't. And Terry, in New Zealand, while we're looking at that, you say you've heard that if we touch a snake, they won't mate with each other because there's the scent of the oils on our hands that will leave a residue on the snake's skin. Terry, I think you'll find that if you were to handle a snake quite extensively, yes, that may well have an effect on its ability to mate. It may well, remember, we smell like predators to just about anything out here, so it could well be the case that if you were to touch, say, a snake and then it came across a potential mate, that mate might smell predator on it, and that would definitely be a bad thing for the prospective lovers. But I think that it wouldn't be permanent. I think the scent of us would be washed off pretty quickly. Now, if anyone can tell me where the leopard is, that would be marvelous. Oh, Tebs has spotted her. She's nowhere near the kill. Thank you, Tebs. I think as she has been for much of the morning, she's been flat on her back. So we'll have a quick look here and guide Jamie in. Hello, Karula. How are you? So I think that's where she's been sat for most of the morning, isn't it? She does seem to be getting paler and paler as the days go on. And I strongly suspect that her extensive wanderings over the course of the last week have been because she is in fact looking for a mate again, and I wonder if Tingana has failed to impregnate her yet again. Very lovely. We won't spend too long here. We'll just spend a few minutes here, enjoy the beauty of the leopard, and then we'll probably have a look at the kill. And then we'll drive around, I think, back to the Juma Dam and see if we can't start. Now, so Jamie's little show that she's going to be doing, I think, is so exciting. It's just tremendous. There's a school in Johannesburg, a very sort of famous old Johannesburg school called Rodin School for Girls, and my sister went there actually. And Jamie also went there, and they're grade 1 and grade 2 children, so 7 and 8-year-old little girls, are to whom the show is going to be directed. And you are obviously welcome to carry on watching. There will be no change in the actual website, so you just keep watching if you want to watch it, but just bear in mind that it will be directed at very young children. So very exciting stuff. I think you'll find it tremendously entertaining, and I just think that this kind of thing for schools, and I know that there are a few schools, especially in the States, that watch us during the afternoon drives, and I think it's just a wonderful way to get kids enthralled in the wilderness and in conservation especially, because without children's buy-in, of course, our already threatened wilderness areas will become even more so. Alright, let's just do a quick turn around the tree there and have a look. I don't think we need to wait here for Jamie. I think she'll be more than capable of finding this leopard. I don't think she's going anywhere at all. And then we'll press on and let's just see if we can't have one last gander at that woodland kingfisher. Thank you, Julia. In Houston, you say there is an impala fetus in the tree as well. That's a bit grim, but yes, very interesting. And of course, any impala ewe that is killed now will almost inevitably, if she's an adult, she will have the same thing. So not a great beginning to life for this little impala. In British Columbia, you are exactly correct in your guess that, you see there, Tebs? You're exactly correct in your guess that leopards will absolutely keep a cache of kills if they can kill more than one. I've seen that with baboons. And you'll see it probably once or twice during the course of the lambing season for the impalas, where the youngsters are so easy to kill that one or two of them may well end up in a kind of cache. So that's a fairly grim picture of that's befallen the impala. And quite typically the leopard has gone for the backside first. Ah well. Leopard's got to eat. And there's the fetus. I mean, that could not have been more than a week, maybe 2, from full term. Little thing. Let's move on from here, and this site of carnage, and we'll go back down towards the Juma Dam and see if we can't find that woodland kingfisher. now. Now, we had an enormous storm last night. I would say probably about 20 millimeters of rain, so almost an inch, which for us is quite a lot. It may have even been more than that actually, maybe 25, maybe a full inch. And that will have created a beautiful layer, subsurface layer of water for the grasses to start growing out of. And Joel, before I get on to your question, we did spend some time yesterday digging trenches in our little camp because the water did threaten to inundate us at various stages, and that dovetails neatly, Joel, with your question about whether or not hyena dens and other dens get flooded. Joel, it's highly unlikely. You know, they're normally in termite mounds. Termite mounds are A, on very well-drained soil, and B, they're normally on sort of slopes. So we'll have a look at this termite mound and I'll show you what I mean. So this termite mound over here, for example, sits on a slope on pretty well-drained soils, and I'll tell you what, I'll show you where the den would normally be, and that might help. So normally what you'd have is an aardvark that dug a hole in an area like this, and it's upslope, and so it's highly unlikely that water would ever collect sufficiently to get into a hole that was at my feet here. Likewise, if they dug a hole the other side of the termite mound, the water would just go around it like that. I would say there's the odd chance that it's possible that flooding could take place in a termite mound like that, but I'd say, Joel, it's highly unlikely, especially, certainly not for wild dogs, because they, of course, give birth in the winter time, and unless there was a seriously odd weather pattern that came through, there would be no water at all during the time when the wild dogs give birth. Chilly out here, I must say. Now, we've just been chatting about that snake and the egg eaters, and Elena, I know someone asked Scott whether egg eaters only eat eggs, and Elena, in California, you say that you've done some research and they do only eat eggs. The rhombic egg eater only eats eggs, and you say maybe a lapwing egg. Now, a lapwing is a ground nesting bird, as you pointed out, and is it possible that it could be a lapwing egg? I think it could well be. A lapwing egg to me, though, looks a bit big. You know, that snake was small, and its throat was about that wide. So it's possible that could be a lapwing egg, but I think a lapwing egg is a little bit large for that. So I would say it was something smaller, maybe even a robin or a weaver, little eggs, and I think that snake, although it was on the ground, could well have collected the egg from somewhere else. We're doing another turn around here. And Remay, I don't really know how long it will take for that snake to digest the egg, but I think once the shell is cracked, it'll disappear pretty quickly. The calcium in the egg will obviously take a little bit longer than the albumin and the yolk. Right, let's have another listen here, and we'll just watch these two Birchall starlings while we're waiting. Oh, look at that. One of them's a youngster. One of them's a little one. They grow so fast, these birds. And the one, that one there is a youngster. Shorter tail than the adult. Blacker head. And it was begging. It is incredible. It's probably about a month old, maybe even less. There's a whole little family of them. I think there's a clutch of recently fledged virtual starlings. There's an adult in the tree there. It's now flying off. Let me just move around a little bit. See if we can't get a nice look. I am, of course, hoping to hear the woodland kingfisher again here. I heard him call once, and then he ceased. Little virtual starlings in here. They must have had a nest around here somewhere. We'll just go around so that Tebs can get a proper picture of them. There we go. They're just sitting underneath the Juma Dam cam now. I wonder if they don't have a nest around there. So they nest in tree holes. I think I've just found the nest. Tebs, let's go around the front here. Oh, nasty hole in the ground. Excuse me getting in the way of the Juma Dam cam, but these things must be done every so often. I spotted a hole in the tree up there, but I don't think there is one actually. Wonderful to see these birds breeding and then developing, and it's just it's a very special time of year, this little birds coming out all over the place and new migrants coming in every day, like that sandpiper we had today, the wood sandpiper. Okay, let's head on. The woodland kingfisher clearly does not want to see me today, which I think is extremely selfish of it. But, you know, I'm sure there'll be others. Susan, I'm very sorry to tell you that it's not a good time for your request. Susan, you said I'd show you an African bullfrog with a tooth in its mouth after the rain. Yeah, I haven't seen any now. They'll come out more at night and possibly also when there's a bit more heat in the air. Remember, they're also ectothermic, so very little heat around the place at the moment, so they'll struggle to move. So this wouldn't be a great frog time, but that said, we may be lucky. But I think the best time is going to be when it heats up a little bit, and especially when the termite alates start to fly out of the mounds. You often find bullfrogs then lurking around there. I'm just looking at a hornbill. What's this hornbill, Tebs? He's carrying something and he's sitting on a dead tree. So Susan, I don't think bullfrogs today, but when it heats up and the termite alates start to fly, yes, definitely. Oh, he's got a nest here. No, he doesn't. Every time I see a hornbill carrying anything at the moment, I'm still watching him. I think there's, I don't know. There may be a nest in that tree. time you see any we'll go back across the dam wall and then see. This is where I heard the bird calling. It was definitely husk. That is my leopard orchid. Not a very as I was saying earlier, not a very crisp morning, a really kind of heavy atmosphere. The clouds are low and they're moving at quite a speed. Come on, kingfisher, don't let me down. Now, for those of you who perhaps don't know, many of the kingfishers, especially here, don't in fact eat fish. And the woodland kingfisher that we're looking for is one of those. So the kingfishers that we get here are the brown-hooded, the malachite, the pygmy, the woodland, the striped, and the grey-hooded, and the pied. And of those, only the pied, the malachite, and I think maybe the grey-hooded eat fish as a matter of course. The rest of them are fairly sort of voracious eaters of just about anything that has meat in it, and they will eat. So they will eat fish if they happen to be lying around the place, but they don't hunt for fish like the malachite and the pygmy, not pygmy, the malachite and the pied, which hover above the water and then dive down and catch the fish. It's an amazing thing to see. But certainly a lot of them will eat frogs. And I know I've seen the woodland eating frogs, but they also will eat many insects and other kinds of protein-rich foods. Not much in the way of seed or grass eaters are the kingfishers with their spear-like beaks. Wise, Djuma does tend to be a little bit on the poor side. So we don't often see monkeys, we hardly ever see baboons. Lane in Johannesburg, you'd like to know why. Lane, you've been to many reserves where baboons... Lane, I'm not entirely sure. I think the main reason has probably got to do with the lack of roosting sites. So they do come through here every so often. But we don't have a major river running through the reserve, which means that large fig trees and big jackalberry trees, there's the odd big jackalberry, but not a huge number, those sorts of trees don't occur here. And because of that, there are not very obvious roosting sites for baboons. They could well go down to the Sand River or be closer to the Sand River or the Manyeleti River, which is off to the west of us, where there are huge trees that they can roost in at night. So I suspect it's got quite a lot to do with the safety of it. I also think, though, when the jackalberries start to fruit here, that we will see the odd troop of baboons coming through. But I think they will be very transigent. I don't think they're going to hang around for too long. Very nice question, that. Thank you. One of the, of course, for many people, the concept of a creepy crawly is a ubiquitous thing that means anything that doesn't have fur on it, and it terrifies the wits out of you. And certainly, while invertebrates are very fascinating to me, the centipede, which Barbara you're asking about, is certainly something that gives me the heebie-jeebies, even though I've been out here for so long. A centipede, with its, I don't know, the way it moves and it's kind of they do have a really pretty nasty bite. They give me the heebies too. And Barbara, we do get them here. Not that many of them, but they are around. And possibly my least favorite of the invertebrates. Scuttling about. Millipedes, of course, are very, very common, and the millipede is totally unrelated to a centipede. And they, of course, have many hundreds of legs. Well, a centipede doesn't normally have 100 legs at all. So we're just coming down through now a drainage line or dry riverbed, and what we'll do is it's right in front of the camp, in front of Wuyatela camp. But Tebs, if you can just kind of sweep the camera past here, I'll show you what I meant by the lack of roosting sites. So there are some tall trees here, but none of them on the scale of those big fig trees or leadwood trees or enormous jackalberries that grow on some of the drainage lines and dry riverbeds, and indeed the perennial sand river that's quite close to this area. So I think that is the major reason that we don't have resident troops of baboons here at Djuma. Wonderful sound there of the orange-breasted bushshrike. Such a lovely peaceful sound of the morning. But this morning is not heating up. And you would find if the sun popped out, the volume of birdsong would increase exponentially. But right now it's a very kind of a calm, well, not quite chamber music. I used the analogy of chamber music for the winter, but it's certainly not everybody in the orchestra is playing at the moment. Dave in Texas, you're a very observant fellow, obviously, and you want to know what the button is that I'm pushing behind the steering wheel every time we start the car. It is on this thing, and it's called an immobilizer, which is supposed to stop the car and stop thieves taking your car. Now, of course, there are many things about the Land Rover that are, shall we say, illogical at best and insane at worst. One of them on this particular model of the car is this immobilizer, which is wonderful if you live in a ghetto and don't want your car stolen. It's entirely pointless here at Djuma, though. However, in order to remove it, apparently one has to expend the same amount of effort as one might building a new space station, taking the car apart, removing the various bits and pieces of the immobilizer, and so it's actually impossible to take out. So we just make do with it. Same engine you find in a 328i, as far as I remember. An old one, not a new one. Right, well, I think that's going to be it from me, everybody. Jamie is standing by to take over, and please enjoy her presentation with the kids. I think it's going to be a really fascinating time, especially hearing the interaction that'll come from them. Young minds in the bush, and we have them watching our regular drives, are just a very special way to enjoy it. So thank you, Tebs, for your efforts today. Thank you to Louise, who's back in the final control. I can't remember who else is there, but all the girls are on site now. Nikki and Tara and Kirsty. Nikki is the other one doing the job at the moment. And a big thanks, of course, to Scott and Wium. And we will see you later this afternoon. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you happen to find yourself in the world. Bye-bye.
morning, ladies, and welcome to a really exciting adventure. My name is Jamie, and I have Jeandre who's sitting on the back with me, and he's going to be pointing the camera in different directions and showing you all of the magical things that we have out here. Now, 8 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you are. I was in Matric at Rodin, and I was sitting in the uniform, everything like that. I know that auditorium like the back of my hand, and it's so wonderful that you can join us. This is live, so what you're seeing on your screen right now is happening in real life, 600 kilometers away from where you are now. Now, how many of you have been on safari before? How many of you have been to the Kruger? That's where we are now. We're in the Sabi Sands, so we're connected to a huge area of wildlife where the animals have been roaming free for years and years, it's been going longer than our grandparents have been alive. And what an incredible experience. We have so much to show you and so much to teach you, but I also want to hear from you. So guys, please send through your questions, get your teachers to email them through. Now, I'm not sure how this magic technology works, but I think I have the best job in the world. I get to take a game drive with a man sitting on the back operating a camera. It boosts the signal all the way up into the sky, and then bounces back through satellites right across to where you're sitting now. I want you to just imagine for 1 minute. Just close your eyes. Imagine you can feel the breeze blowing on your face. It's very windy. It's cold today. Imagine you can smell that earth. It's damp, it's fresh, we've had a lot of rain. Finally, the animals have been so thirsty, and we've got things to find. Now, we can see lions out here, we could see elephants, we could see leopards. We just don't know what we're going to see. Now, last night, I know there was a leopard somewhere on here. And Mia, you might recognize this. Mia, if you're watching, we're on quarantine clearings, and we're going to do a big loop around and see what we can find. Okay, right, let's go. Are you imagining that you're on the back of the vehicle with me? So everybody has to stay seated. You've got to keep your arms and your legs inside. You've got to watch your head for thorn trees, but most importantly, I need your help. I need you to watch what's happening around me and see what you can spot. See if you can spot something before I do. It's very important when you go out on game drive. You'll see I'm wearing a hat. That might seem silly because it's cloudy, but you never know out here. The weather changes, and it's very important that you always have a hat and you always have sunscreen with you. Make sure you look after your skin. When the sun comes out, it gets very hot. Watch for branches. There's lots around. See how bright and green it looks after the rains. Now, I want to know from all of you, what's your favorite animal? What do you want to see the most while we're out on these game drives? And the wonderful thing is that it's wild, so we can't control exactly what it is we're going to see. But I can just tell you that there is always an amazing thing waiting around every single corner. And there's something so special about that. It's not just the big animals, it's the little animals, the little insects that oh, there we go. I found one for you. I'll try and shift back so that Jeandre can show you what I'm looking at. Put Jeandre at a bit of a tilt. There we go. Now, some of you must have seen these before. Look at the way its little legs go. They move like waves. What do you think that might be? You might know it as a shongololo. That's what I was always taught. And they were one of my favorite things to go and pick up when I was a kid. You know how they curl up tight into a ball? Now, I'm not going to do that to him because I don't want to scare him. He's only just popped out because it's been raining. And I can imagine that it would be very, very scary to have a hand suddenly reach down and pluck him off the ground. You can see his little feelers moving. Now, those little bits that are sticking out in the front of his head, using them to tell him where to go. And all those hundreds of little legs moving in waves. And they're very safe creatures. They can't bite. They don't sting. They're completely harmless. Shongololo. Now, how many of you find bugs gross? Because you mustn't find bugs gross. Bugs are cool. There's so many different ones out here, and they all play a really important part in the world out here. If we didn't have bugs, none of the animals out here, none of the trees out here would survive. Even the trees need certain types of bugs so that they can make more baby trees. Okay, should we leave our little millipede to go about his business and see what else we can find? Oh, so exciting. When I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was when I went on holiday with my grandfather, we'd get up really, really early. It was the only time I was allowed a bit of coffee. And it was coffee with lots and lots of condensed milk. And we'd go out when it was still dark, and we'd go drive around the Kruger Park. And I still remember that excitement of just never knowing what exactly it was we were going to see. And I remember it being incredibly intense. Now, my favorite thing about being out here is that no matter how much I learn and how many books I read, and I come out with a whole library whenever I go out on a drive. I take my bird book, I take my reptiles book and my frog book, books on trees, books on grasses, all of that comes with me. And no matter how much I learn and no matter how much I read about, I'm never ever going to know everything that's out here. And for me, that is one of the most incredible things. Heard so many different answers as to what it is you guys want to see. I know, Emma, you wanted to see a wild dog. I want to see wild dogs all the time. They're one of my favorite things out here. Olivia, you wanted to see a leopard. Well, Olivia, there's a good chance we might. I know she was around before. What I've just spotted. Olivia, I promise you I'm also looking for leopards. You've got to look hard though, because they're difficult to see. Now, isn't this sweet? Now, for those of you who don't know birds, these are called Wahlberg's eagles. And these two are really, really special because they're pale. Most Wahlbergs are brown in color. These have got white chests. This is a male and a female. The female's on the right. She's bigger, so she can boss her husband around. One of the best things about these birds is they mate for life, and they fly thousands of kilometers every year, but they always stay together. And if we look slightly to the right, you'll see what these two have come back for. They do it every year. Imagine flying 1,000 kilometers and coming back to the exact same place. You see that messy bundle of sticks there? Somewhere in there is a baby Wahlberg's. Probably still in its egg. I haven't seen any movement yet. But there's going to be a little baby chicken there, maybe even two. And what a lucky little bird it is. It's got two fabulous parents to look after it and keep it well fed. You can see them ruffling. Their feathers are being ruffled. They're cold. They're going to tuck themselves against each other and try and stay warm. They don't want to be out flying and hunting now. It's too windy for them. I'm going to settle on the tree and wait for the wind to die down. Beautiful birds. As we drive along and see what we can find. Emma, I just wanted to tell you that we have had, in the last few, probably about the last week, we have had some of the most amazing wild dogs I have ever seen. We've got two packs that move around here. One is called the Investic Pack, and it's got 3 adults and 11 puppies, and they are the cutest things in the world. They've got these huge ears that look too big for their bodies. And then we've got another pack known as the Sands Pack, and that's got 21 dogs in it. And those two have been moving backwards and forwards on Djuma, which is where we are now. And they've been chased. We've seen them being chased by elephant. We've seen them chasing hyenas. It's been incredible. I think they are probably my second favorite. If I had to choose, my second favorite predator out here. My top favorite predator is spotted hyenas. I love hyenas. And there you go. So Sienna, you wanted to see a hyena. I always want to see hyena. Did you know, Sienna, that spotted hyenas are probably the smartest animals out here? Now the light's a bit cloudy, so it's going to be difficult for Jeandre to show us, but I've just spotted some footprints. I want to see. And we're going to track this animal. We're going to see if we can find it. Now it's slipped in the mud. You can even see where it's slid around. The car's going to wobble a bit as I take my foot off the brake, but look at that track. And I'm going to jump out for a second. I'm just going to show you how many toes it has, and then I want to hear from you. I want to hear guesses. Let's see if you guys can tell me what you think this is. Now it's perfectly safe for me to jump out. I've double checked the area, I've made sure there's no animals, and I'm very close to the car. So I'm going to just show you quickly what I'm looking at. Now if you look down here, something big has walked along this road. And I want to see if you guys can guess what it is. It's got 4 toes. There's 4 toes here as well. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're pointing that way. Imagine your feet, imagine your toes. It's showing us which direction. Now it's a big animal. Imagine I was large. Its feet are wide apart. And it's walking this way. And I think we should go and see if we can find it and figure out exactly what it might be. But I want to see if you guys can guess what it might be. Something that comes out at night. So this animal was walking down the road sometime last night. And I think we should see if we can figure it out. 4 toes, big feet, and big feet that are wide apart. Now one of my first things that I learned when I was training to do this job was to read the signs. Now the bush tells you a story. Even if you don't see the animal, the bush is going to show you what happened. It's going to tell you the story. You just have to, it's like learning to read. You have to learn to read the signs and the messages that it's trying to tell you. This animal's still walking slowly up the road. And you can imagine it like being a detective. Marungawa, you were wondering why the shungololo has so many legs. Remember that little bug that we saw that was, its legs were moving in waves? I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't know why it has to have so many legs. Maybe because it allows it to move in a way, because of the way that it climbs up things. Having so many little legs means it can grip and move over twigs and logs and move around. Now it doesn't eat meat, it eats vegetables, so it will only eat plants out here. Maybe having that many legs to grip onto branches means that it can get up and grab the best, juiciest leaves. Our animal is still coming along this road. I think he's here somewhere. Oh, I think we've spotted it. I think I can see the animal. Have you guessed what it is yet? I'm going to duck my head down so Jeandre can show you. Can you see that eye sticking up there? I think we've tracked our first animal. Now I may or may not have cheated a little bit because I know this hippo. His name is Peter, and his name is Peter because he lives in a pan. So that little area of water, that's known as a pan in the bush. And I'm going to tell you Peter's story in a moment. Let's see if we can sneak up a little bit closer without scaring him. I don't want to make him frightened. I don't want to make him have to get up. remember that this is their home. We're visitors in their house. So it's always really important that everything you do out here, you do with respect. You wouldn't go into somebody else's home and invade their personal space. You've got to be very respectful when you approach animals. It's also important to remember that they are big and they can be dangerous. But he's not. Peter is quite peaceful and at rest at the moment. I'm also always on the lookout. Isabella, you wanted to see a crocodile. And of course, I'm sure you've seen lots of documentaries where you see hippos and crocodiles sharing the same water. I don't see one in here today, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. He could be hiding. And crocodiles are amazing. They seem to come out of nowhere. They can walk long, long distances. You wouldn't think it because they swim so much. Oh, look how sleepy Peter is. I'll tell you the story behind Peter. We've only just had lots of rain that has come through in the last 2 days. But before that, it was 40 degrees every single day and there was not a drop of rain. So the dams are getting smaller and smaller, the rivers are getting smaller and smaller, and it puts hippos like Peter under pressure because they don't have as much space. So for an old boy like this, he probably got into a fight with one of the other younger males, and he decided that he didn't want to stick around and get bullied anymore, and so he found himself his own personal space. Now here's something amazing about Peter that I'm not sure if you all knew. Hippos are one of the only animals that can't swim. And I promise you I'm not lying to you. Peter cannot swim. He's lying on the bottom of on the mud at the bottom of the dam. And what hippos do is they can actually control how much they float or sink. So if they want to in a deep dam, they can sink down to the bottom and then bob back up. They can push up with their legs, or they can walk along the bottom of the dam. And that's how they move in this area. Well done, Lungi and Hannah. Fantastic. Apparently you guessed that it was a hippo. So it was Lungi and Hannah as well as Savannah. Really well done, guys. I'm very impressed. I thought I was going to catch you out with that one, but obviously not, because you figured out it was a hippo and we followed his tracks, just like I said, following clues, like animals leaving evidence for you to follow so you can figure out where they've gone or what they were. I'm very impressed that you managed to figure it out and figure out the fact that it was Peter. Now I'm not sure about you, but I think we should continue our search. I really have a strong feeling that we might be finding a leopard. Other guides did see her this morning. Reverse backwards, do another loop around Peter and head off. And while I do that, Malika, it's like you read my mind. It was something I meant to mention and I forgot. Malika, you wanted to know what you should bring if you go into the wild. Oh, can you hear the wind? You can see how my hair is going to be impossible to brush out. Now, Malika, you wanted to know what you bring. I'll show you a couple of important things. First of all, oh, it's heavy. There's a backpack, some kind of bag that you can carry stuff in. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a hat is very important. A radio is very important because you don't always have cell phone signal out here. So it's important that you're able to communicate. Then I've got my library collection. I've got my books. Stop for one moment so I can get into my bag and show you what else I've got. Very important, probably the thing that I use the most out here, binoculars, to help me look at all of the birds and everything that we see outside. Now mine are getting a bit old. This is stuck. A little bit of sand, a little bit of damage, but still my most trusted tool. Then I have a Leatherman which is a multi-knife. Jig is making a very funny noise. Try and figure out where that is coming from. Oh, I know what I did. I turned the windscreen wipers on. Obviously, Jigger doesn't have a windscreen anymore, but once upon a time she did, and I always refer to the car by its name. And it's got the device that still works. Now, Nina, we're just leaving the hippopotamus, Peter, in the pan, and you wanted to know how much does a hippopotamus weigh? And the answer is somewhere in the region of 2,000 kilograms, so 2 tons. Now, Peter's a huge hippo. He might be even bigger than that. And the best and most amazing thing about that is the fact that although they look big and fat and slow, a hippo could easily run faster than any of us. Definitely could run faster than me. I was never very fast at school, but they still can run. They can still run incredibly quickly. Apparently, Emma's dad was chased by a hippo when he was a little boy, and that could be incredibly scary. Now, hippo, although they only eat grass and they go and feed on the vegetation, they can be quite scary animals, and sometimes they get a bit cross. If they're out of the water, because they feel safe in the water, when they're on land, they get uncomfortable, they feel a bit scared, and that makes them a little bit cross. And sometimes they do chase people, so it's important to remember that they are wild animals and they can be dangerous, and they're always going to be faster than you think they are. I've said that hippos can't swim, and Kristen, you were wondering how long then can they hold their breath? How long can they be underwater for? Answer to that is somewhere in the region of about 5 minutes. So between 5 and 6 minutes, even the babies. So even the babies can hold their breath for a really long time. I have once, I timed it, and I did see a hippo hold its breath for 11 minutes. Which just goes to show that you can't always believe exactly what it was that the books told you. Now I'm just gonna hop on the radio for a second. This is a game drive channel, so there's other people driving their guests around, and this allows me to talk to them and communicate with them. I just want to go on now and just double check with them what's happening. Stations with Karula come in. Apparently they don't want to talk to me today. That's fine. We'll find the leopard. She was here somewhere now. Let's see if we can spot her. Where do you think a leopard's going to be hiding? I think a good place to start is somewhere in the trees. Now, Olivia, the reason I'm looking for a leopard, and I know you really wanted to see one, is first of all because I love them and I think they're amazing creatures, but also because I know that there was a leopard around here last night. I know she was moving through. Let's check the trees as we go past. She might be lying somewhere here. Keep your eyes peeled. Now remember, leopards are really well camouflaged. You've got to look carefully. They've got those incredible spots that hide them away. I'm going to stop for a moment because I've spotted, it's not a leopard, but I've spotted some very pretty birds, and they're making a lot of noise. Switch off so you can hear it. Oh! Can you see that? That's amazing! Lilac-breasted rollers are chasing a hoopoe for no apparent reason. That's so cool. Can hear them shouting angrily. Shift back to see if you can see it again. Jeandre did an amazing job of staying with that lilac-breasted roller. Now I'm sure you guys have seen them before. They're beautiful birds with that bright colouring. Incredible looking. He's ducked away now. Now the reason that the lilac-breasted rollers, it's a type of bird, were chasing the hoopoe, and I'm sure many of you have seen hoopoes in your garden, is because right now they're breeding and they all have secret nest sites around the reserve, and one of their favorite nest sites is to be in a hole in a marula tree. And I think that lilac-breasted roller was just playing it safe and chasing it away. Now let's head across. She was somewhere on this clearing. I'm sure she's here. Let's double check. Now remember, as I said, they were very well camouflaged, but there's one part of a leopard that sometimes gives them away, and that is that white tip of the tail. Maybe that's what we should be looking for. It could be hanging out of a tree, it could be hiding under a bush. And while we're checking the trees, Georgina and Kada, you were wondering why leopards hide in trees. Now I have a secret to tell you. Leopards are actually quite scared of the other animals that are out here. So not necessarily prey, but they do get very nervous. So things like hyena, wild dog, lions, they will all chase a leopard if they can. I think we should go this way. For leopards, because they're so good at climbing, there's no other animal that can catch them up in a tree. Oh, I've spotted our first clue. Now guys, this is a sad fact of nature, but leopards have to eat, and I think we found our clue here. Now this is one thing that leopards are famous for doing. They put their breakfast and their dinner in tree branches. Now there's an impala up a tree, which means our leopard is somewhere here. Let's see if we can figure out where she is. I know it's very sad to see, very difficult to see, but just bear in mind that there are lots of impala and leopards are built to eat them. But by hiding her food up in the tree, it means that the hyenas can't steal it. Anything will try and steal it from her. Lions will try and steal it, and she's put so much time and energy into catching it, and she's got a huge responsibility. She's got to feed herself all by herself. Where could she be? She must be here somewhere. She's not in the tree with the impala. Let's see if we can spot her. I think I see something. Can you guys see the leopard? She's hiding from us. Have you spotted her yet? Can you see her now? There, she's moving her head and she's lying down. Now, all you can see is just the tip of the spots behind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift around. You can get a chance to see her properly. How exciting is this? We found our leopard, we followed the clues. She's hidden her breakfast away in a tree. Ellen, you were wondering if leopards are the best climbers since we were looking for her in a tree. Sorry, Erin, you were wondering if they're the best climbers. Yes, absolutely. They are perfectly graceful and balanced. I don't know how they do it because I fall out of most of the trees I try and climb. But leopards just have a way of doing it. They've got those perfect claws and muscles to hold them up and climb into the trees. Now I've seen lions climb trees and they can climb, but they look very silly doing it and they fall out all the time. It's very funny to watch. And they generally don't do it, which is great for the leopards because it means the leopard, if a lion comes, can race up a tree and hide away from it. Let's see if we can find a nice place to view her. And Mia, I think you're right. I think you're on to me. It was Karula that killed the impala, and she's here. I'm just trying to find us a nice place to see her without disturbing any of the other people who are out on drive as well. Let's see if I can. Now, when we got a nice view of her, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story about the leopard you're going to see. Now we're going to have to content ourselves with this view. She's very hidden away. Sorry, Jeandre, I put you on quite a slope. Here you go. A very sleepy, very well hidden Karula. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure Mia does, Karula is the queen of Juma, which is where we are now. She's 11 years old, and this entire area is her territory. And next door to her are all her daughters that she's had over the years. She's been an incredible mother. She's an incredible hunter. And a very brave and courageous leopard. Now, for a leopard that lives all by herself, looking after herself all alone, when she has cubs, and the wonderful news is that she may actually be pregnant right now. She was mating with a male just a few weeks ago. Now, it's too soon for us to tell, but she could be pregnant, and we might be expecting cubs in about 3 months' time. Now, she was out on this clearing hunting. She's exhausted from all of the hunting that she's done. And I know that, Julia, you were wondering how fast can a leopard run? The answer, Julia, is very, very fast. Now imagine the distance from one side of the auditorium to the other. Now count 2 seconds in your head. 1, 2. That leopard could have run from one side to the other in that space of time. So essentially they can cover 22 meters in 1 second. Isn't that crazy? Now they can't do it forever though. Now, Jordan, it's a difficult one. You wanted to know how you tell if it's a male or a female. What tells me it's a female at this point is the size of her and the fact that I know she was in this area last night. So she, as a full-grown female, is about half the size of an adult male leopard. So that's really the only difference, is that their size. Males are much bigger. They've got big, thick, strong necks to protect them, and they've got what's known as a dewlap, so a flap of skin in the front that protects them. And the other way that you can tell is the obvious way. They have differences, and the males have testicles underneath their tails that you'll be able to see, but only, of course, if you can see under their tail. I'm not going to go and ask her to lift up her tail, though. Now, what I really want to do, now that the other vehicle has moved around, is I'm going to try and shift so you can see her face, and you can have a look at the face of the queen of Juma. She's a very sleepy leopard, though. How amazing is this? We got our leopard. Now, she was very tricky to spot, and we had to look hard for her. I know that, Savannah, you were wondering why leopards are as camouflaged as they are. Why are they so difficult to spot? And the answer is because there's so many animals out here that are a threat to them. They can hide away from things like lions, but most importantly, they hunt all by themselves. They're not like lions or wild dogs or spotted hyenas that can chase prey and then get to it and have one group member go around. They can ambush. It doesn't quite work like that with leopards. They've got to use stealth. What they do is they go and they sneak and they hide away in the grass and they wait for the prey to move past and then they pounce. Again, as I said, 22 meters in 1 second. There we go. We can get a little bit closer now without disturbing anybody else. Good morning, Karula. Hello, big girl. sleepy. Very clever. Did you catch that impala all by yourself? Now, I have a secret. I always talk to animals. Hey. All right, girl. Okay, girl. Now, you don't need to be worried. She was perfectly relaxed. She just got a bit of a fright. Okay, girl. All right, girl. I'll back up. What I'm going to do is give her a bit of space. She's sending me a message, but how incredible was that? Teeth out, you can just see why they're such fearsome predators. Here we go. Stop here and let her relax a bit. Okay, big girl. Did you get cross there? Now, what could have happened as well is that she was fast asleep and she woke up and saw us there and decided actually she didn't like that. But there you go, look how beautiful she is. And a wild creature out here. And as I said, it's very important to approach them with complete respect. So when she gave me that message to say, hey, I'm cross with you, move away, we moved away immediately. And animals tell you what they're thinking, they tell you how they're feeling. Oh, the one magical, oh, look how round that belly is. She's had a big breakfast. The one magical thing about Karula, who's now settled down completely, but she's hidden her face from us, is she's got the word wow on her forehead. Yes, please look here, girl. See if you can spot it. It's right between her eyes. And it says wow. It took me a long time to be able to see it, but as she's looking at us, there you go. See, she's perfectly calm and relaxed now. She's lying down. And she's going to probably go back to sleep with such a full belly. She's been feeding on that impala probably all night. And Zizi, you were wondering, how do leopards get their prey up into trees? The answer is they are incredibly strong. Imagine you were carrying something that weighs the same amount as you do in your mouth, and then you have to climb trees using your claws. They're much, much stronger than we are. Now, she probably weighs somewhere in the region of about 45 kilograms. She's quite a small leopard. All right, girl. I'm moving slowly. And she's still strong enough to lift an impala that weighs about 50 kilograms up into the tree. They're incredibly strong creatures. So she'll grab it in her mouth and then pull herself up. Now, she's left her breakfast up in the tree, and that is because if we look at that incredibly round belly, she's full. So Deanne, you were wondering why she's left it. The truth is she's stuffed. She just cannot eat anymore. She cannot face eating anymore. She's so full of food, she's just gonna wait a little bit. And that's why she's pulled her food. You can almost think of it like leaving your leftovers in a Tupperware in the fridge for the next day. That's what she's done. That's why she's put that kill in the tree, so that she can keep her food safe from a hyena. Now, we've got lots of hyena that live all around us, and she knows that because she's clever. Karula's had 11 years to learn. She's got to put her food up in her tree, up in the trees. Now, I've met her daughter, Shadow. And Shadow, for some reason, Shadow was one of Karula's first cubs, and she's now 9 years old. And for some reason, Shadow is just not as good as her mom at putting food up in trees. She always has her kills stolen by hyena because she doesn't take them up into a tree. And it just goes to show you that each and every one of these animals is completely unique. What I'm going to do now that she's relaxed is I'm going to move a little bit further away from her. She's actually moved closer to us, but I'm going to give her a bit more space now that she's settled down. Apparently, let's shift a bit further back. There we go. That's much better. Just giving her a chance to relax and calm down a little bit. We'll have a nice view of her as well. Now I know that Madame Gonzalez, you were wondering where we are in the park. We're actually technically in the Sabi Sands, so the closest gate to us is around Orpen Gate. That's the entrance to the Kruger Park. And we're just on the boundary, so the Sabi Sands sits on the western boundary of the Kruger National Park, but it has no fences in between it. We're just south of Orpen on the western edge of Kruger Park, and maybe you can get your teachers to show you where you are on the map. Well, it's been an absolutely wonderful morning to have shared with you all, and I want to say a big thank you. And remember guys, this is your home, this whole place, and learn as much about it as you can, because one day it will be up to you to come and enjoy and protect these beautiful animals. Have a wonderful day, and I will possibly see you next time. Bye bye guys. A very, very good morning, ladies. I hope you are all as excited as I am on this rather grey and gloomy day, but still wonderful that we've had rain. Now, my name is Jamie, and I'm going to be your safari guide for this morning. I'm going to take you on a journey throughout Africa. I also have Jeandre, who is sitting on the back and providing us with all of the incredible camera work. Now, I want you guys to sit back for a moment. I want you to close your eyes. Imagine you can feel the wind blowing on your face. You're excited. You're on a journey. Imagine you're sitting right here on the back of the vehicle. You can smell the fresh mud from the rains we had last night. How many of you have been on a game reserve before? How many of you have been on a game drive? There are some amazing things to see and do out here, and I'm going to take you through some of them. And I want to hear from you. What animal do you want to see? What would you most like to see? What is your favorite animal? And please send through as many questions as you want. I want to answer them. 8 years ago, I was sitting in that Rodin auditorium. I was in matric at Rodin, so I went to school there just like you lot. And this is where I am now, probably doing, to me, what is the best job in the world. There are so many fascinating things. So let's sit down. You make sure you keep your arms and legs in the vehicle, please, as well as watch for branches that might hit your head. So keep an eye out there. Let's go on an adventure. Let's go on a game drive. And while we drive, Demi, a very, very happy birthday to you. I hope you are having a wonderful day. What a treat. How many people get to go out on a game drive from their school on their birthday? Now, you'll notice I put my hat on. It's always important to take a hat out with you, even if it's cloudy, because you never know, the sun's starting to peek out. You might get some sun. It's important that you always carry sunscreen and you always have a hat, because the sun can do some serious damage to you. Important to protect yourself. I'm heading out with my binoculars, my big backpack full of books. I've got books on trees, I've got books on birds, and all the interesting little insects that we see out here. And I found something interesting to show you. I think we'll have a look at that quickly. Actually, I'm going to back up for a second. I've got two interesting things I want to show you as we go on our African safari experience. First of all, I'm going to do something that might seem a little bit gross. Give me one moment. I'm going to unplug myself from all the cabling that is attached to me. I'm going to jump out. I'm going to show you something. Find a nice fresh piece. How gross is this? Now, I've picked up a pile of poo, and yes, this is animal poo, and I want to see if you guys can guess what it might be, and to do that, I have to break it open. Now, it's perfectly safe to do because I know that it's a herbivore, and have a close look inside. What do you see? Grass, lots of grass, and there's some leaves too. The other thing is the size, so my hands barely fit around this, and this is a small one. So what do you think does a really big poo that is full of grass and full of leaves? I'm going to return it back to nature so that it can feed the dung beetles, but I want to know if you can guess what it might be. Now, I said I had two things to show you. The other one is an interesting one. Something that I picked up on the side of the road. Oh, let's stretch it out. Can you hear it crinkling? Now, what do you suppose that is? How many of you are scared of snakes? Because you absolutely shouldn't be, but that is what this is. In fact, we can even see the face. Let me switch it around for Jeandre there. Try and hold it in place. Can you see the face? You can even see where the eyes were. How cool is that? Now, snakes, when they grow, they can't add to their skin. So what they have to do is they have to get rid of one layer and shed it, which is what this snake has done. And they start at the nose and they move all the way down to the tip of the tail, which is what we've got where the tip of the tail has fallen off. We've got the back end there. Now, I'm sure lots of you are scared of snakes, and I'll tell you something, I used to be as well, before I learned more about them, and I have learned lots and lots about them. They're actually incredible animals, and all of your encounters with snakes, that snake is 10 times more afraid of you than you are of it, and it's really only people who play with them that get bitten or try and catch them, and of course that's just their defense mechanism. Wonderful to find all of those little bits and pieces. I think we need to go on and see what we can find. And I definitely want to hear from you what it is that you would like to see, and I also want to hear questions. Now, Mara and Kylie, you want to see lions. We have some amazing lions out here. So at the moment, over the last few months, 5 big male lions came in from the north. They're known as the Birmingham Boys. And they moved into this area. They kicked the old males out, sent them running down to Londolozi. And they then have made this their territory. So you never know, they could well be somewhere around here. And at night we can hear them calling together. They all roar. And it's the most incredible experience. You can imagine 5 of them. I'm sure lots of you have seen documentaries or videos of lions calling. Imagine 5 of them all around. When they're right up close, you can feel it vibrating in your chest. Now, Jin and Murang, as well as Rosie, very well done. You are correct. That was a big pile of elephant poo. Now, it's perfectly safe to play with things like elephant poo as long as you remember that you mustn't put your hands in your mouth afterwards, obviously, and you must always wash your hands as soon as you can if you have been playing with poo. The one thing I will never ever touch, and I'm quite at home in the bush. I get nice to feel everything, feel the texture, feel if it's warm, if it's fresh, but I don't ever touch lion poo, leopard poo, hyena poo, anything that eats meat. Mustn't touch it. Now I've spotted something to show you. Now these two live here. Stop for one moment so Jeandre can have a look. And before I get started on the birds that we're looking at, Mrs. James wanted to know why the snake skin is white, and that's because it has lost most of the pigment, has degraded in the sun. Basically the sun breaks it down and all that's left is the keratin, so that white material we have on our fingernails, obviously. That is all that's left in a snake skin. The rest of the color pigments have degraded, broken down by the sun. And look who we've got here. Now, I bet most of you don't know these birds, and that's because they fly all the way in from northern Africa every summer. They're called Wahlberg's eagles. And these two are really special because that pale chest color, that's incredibly rare. Only 5% of Wahlbergs are that pale color, and yet we have 2. And this is a male and a female. The female is the one on the left, the male is the one on the right, and I know that because in birds of prey, the female is always bigger, which means that she can boss her husband around. The wonderful thing is that although they fly for hundreds of kilometers every year, first of all, they stay together, they mate for life, so they are essentially married, and they return year after year to the same nest. And if we look a little bit to the right, there's a nest hiding in the tree there. That messy bundle of sticks is actually the Wahlberg's eagle's nest, and somewhere there is a baby. I'm not sure if it's hatched yet, I don't think so. but we can keep an eye on it. It should be hatching very soon. It's the right time of year. Oh, it's fantastic to see these Wahlbergs. They are beautiful. Coming to have a bit of a cuddle with his mate. It's cold, windy weather. They're keeping each other warm. Alright, we better go. We're running out of time and we need to find things. Let's go see what else we can find. Now we have a question from one of you guys, but please send through your name. It's nice to know. I can imagine that you are sitting on the back with me and that I'm talking to you. You have to imagine it like a conversation. I'm talking to you guys. And I have a question asking, why don't lions recognize individuals on a game drive vehicle? I have to be honest, I know a lot of guides tell that to their guests, and it's a way of making sure that you stay seated and you don't scare the animals in any way. But the truth is, I think they do. I think they recognize individuals, but they are so used to, from years and years of tourism, so used to the sight of the vehicles. And not only that, lions are terrified, believe it or not. They are absolutely terrified of human beings walking. They've learned to associate that shape with danger over the last 1,000 or 2,000 years. But as soon as you crouch, as soon as you sit, and I've experienced this, I've walked wild lions before, I've encountered them on foot, and as soon as you drop down and you break that outline, they relax so much more and they get more comfortable with your presence. As long as you don't outstay your welcome. We are going to do a little bit of guesswork here. I'm going to see if I can direct us. And I'm going to ask you something. I want to see if you can figure this out. I'm just going to make sure Jeandre can get there. Can you see them there, Jeandre? We have a track here. The bush has left us clues. Somebody was walking down the road, and I'm going to hop out for a moment to show you. And I want to know if you can guess who that might have been. So, jump over the mud, it's a bit slippery. You can even see where he slipped. He's walking up the road. He's got 4 toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can actually see it quite clearly in this one as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So imagine the toes on your foot pointing this way. He's going this way. What could it be? It's something big. His legs are wide apart. His foot is huge, bigger than mine. What animal could we be looking for? Well, we'll have to follow the tracks and see if we can figure it out. But let me know what you think it is. And let's go tracking. Now, one amazing thing about the bush is that the bush tells you stories. It leaves you clues, even if you aren't there to see what happened. Now, I know that those tracks are from last night because it rained last night and he's in the mud. So he's been walking in the mud. So there's bits of evidence and they're telling a story. Now, when I first started training to do this job, one of the first things they teach you is to read. It's like learning to read. It's to read the signs of the bush, to read the clues, like being a detective almost. And you learn so much about the way that animals behave just by looking at their tracks. You can see where they slip, you can see where they walk, how they walk, where they choose to walk. And that all helps when you get to the point where you're trying to predict where that animal is going to go. Our animal is still walking along this road. His tracks are still in the road. Let's see if we can figure out where he is. Keep your eyes open, guys. I need you to look for animals and help me spot, because I've got to do all the concentrating on the driving. I need extra pairs of eyes. The more eyes we have looking, the better for us. wondering where we are essentially in the Greater Kruger National Park area. How many of you have been to the Kruger? I'm sure plenty of you. Amy, we're in the Sabi Sands, so we're on the western boundary of Kruger in the bit that's owned by private, so individual peoples rather than the government. And we're right, but it's all open. It's a giant wild area. Animals have been roaming this land for years and generations, longer than our grandfathers or our grandparents have been alive. I think I found our mystery animal. I think I've spotted the animal we've been tracking. Duck my head so Jeandre can show you. It was not a lion that we were tracking. His feet were just that little bit bigger, much bigger. I'm going to introduce you to a hippo that we have named Peter. Let's see if we can sneak a little bit closer and find out what he's up to. I'm going to give him plenty of space. Shift around this way. Now, something always very important to remember is that this is their animal's home. This is where they live. It's really important to treat them with complete and utmost respect for their personal space. And here we have the gentleman responsible for leaving big muddy footprints in the dirt. Now, the story behind this hippo, he is called Peter because he lives in a pan. And that's the name given to these little water holes that you get around here. Now, Peter is an old hippo. Now, the person who came very close to guessing what that animal was Gabby. Gabby, you thought it was a rhino track, and I'm going to say very well done, because rhino tracks and hippo tracks do look very similar. The trick to remember is that hippos have 4 toes, and rhinos have 3. But sometimes in mud it's very difficult to see. Very well done to Vix and to Rosie for guessing it. It is Peter's tracks, Peter the hippo. Now, the story behind him, as I mentioned before, is quite a sad one, and I'm very glad that the rain has finally arrived. Now, it's only in the last 2 days that the rain's been coming. But imagine the last 2 weeks it's been 40 degrees every single day. It's been baking hot, and I know it's been hot in Joburg as well. So you've experienced it on your side, but completely dry, and all of our water holes were starting to dry up. The rivers were disappearing, and because of that, the hippos get more and more under pressure. There's not as much space for them. Now, I think that Peter was living with a pod of hippo further to the north of us in a big dam. But I think as it got smaller, he was pushed out and bullied by a younger male, and he decided he was tired of it and came across to live in our pan outside the lodge. And I have some amazing information about hippopotamuses. Did you know that they cannot swim? They are one of the only animals in the world that cannot swim, and yet they live in water. Now, Peter is lying on the muddy bottom, so he's resting his body weight at the bottom of the water. And when they want to move through deep dams or deep rivers, they just sink to the bottom and then run along in the direction that they want to go. But they have to run along the bottom. They can't propel themselves. And that's partly because they are absolutely enormous with very short legs. I know that this is a male, but it's a very tricky call to make. And I know that Tamara, you were wondering how you tell the difference between a boy and a girl, or a male or a female hippo. The answer is it's actually quite tricky, and you can't always do it. And the previous job I used to work at, I had to go and try and record how many hippos there were in the river and how many males, females. Incredibly difficult. The one thing you can look at is the size and the behavior. So you'll always be able to tell the dominant bull. He gets the most protective, he's the biggest, he's got quite a solid square head. But other than that, that's pretty much the only way that you can tell the difference, unless you see a mother and a baby, because then you know that it's a mom and you know it's a female, because the fathers don't play any role in looking after their youngsters. Now, there's no easy way because, interestingly, and another similarity with rhinos, hippos' testicles are up inside them. They're not external, they're internal. So you can't really tell in that way. So I know Peter's a male just because of his size. He's much, much bigger. But if he were younger, if he were smaller, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if he were a male or a female. One of the tricky ones out here. Now, poor old Peter is very sleepy. I think he's going to doze away. And I think we should probably leave him in peace to continue his morning nap, because remember, hippos are nocturnal. They sleep during the day. And I think he's had quite enough interruptions of his morning nap. I've said that I can't tell boys and girls, and Gemma, you wanted to know how you can tell the different hippos apart. And the answer to that is generally you can't, unless they have very obvious markings. Now in this case, Peter has been living in this pan for a couple of days now, so I know that it's the same one, because remember how I said he was bullied by other males? Well, he's got a couple of scratches across the top of his back, scars that are just healing up from where the other hippos actually hurt him. Oh, my hat is blowing off. Put it down there for now. So I can't tell the difference between individual hippos unless they have clear markings or clear scars. Now, the reason that Peter is quite happy in the water is because hippos feel safest in water. And Eva, you were wondering, would he charge the truck or why won't he? And the answer is he's getting pretty used to people coming and have a look at him. He's very comfortable with, oh my goodness. Hello. Oh, I love rain. Thank you, Jeandre. Gosh, I nearly didn't see this little guy. How cool is that? It's a little Speaks hinged tortoise. You can just see his head poking out. It's all right, little one. Oh, you're lucky I spotted you. You look almost like a rock. There he goes. Oh, I love tortoises. They are such cool little reptiles. Slowly moving. It always looks like they have to work so hard to walk. Oh, he's come out of a state that's almost like hibernating. During winter, they become dormant and they sleep for most of the winter. When the rains come and they know that they're going to have access to water, then they pop out. Might be going for a snack. Nope. Now, I would love to spend as much time as possible with this little guy, but we are going to run out of time, and I have a leopard that I need to look for. She's somewhere on the clearing, so we'll leave him for now. Be careful, little one. Our tortoises, as I said, are amazing creatures. I know that Dimple and Amy, you're really excited. You want to see leopards, so do I. I'll tell you something, I know that somewhere on this clearing there is a leopard, and we're going to go and find her. The reason I know that is, first of all, we saw her last night, but we also know that some of the guides have seen her this morning. Now I'm going to stop very briefly for a beautiful antelope, but I'm not going to stay too long. Hello, boy. A beautiful animal, something that you'll see in camps regularly. Hey, buddy, you're hiding now. You're being shy. Nope, there we go. Now, I'm sure that lots of you know what this is. It's a male nyala. Oh, duck my head down. Isn't he beautiful with that thick coat? Now, the best thing about nyalas is when they fight, or before they fight, they dance. Males dance with each other. They puff up all their fur, and they do a really, really slow, I can only describe it as a waltz, really. Look how pretty he is. And they do that, they do the dance to intimidate each other. Right, we better go. We've got things to find. And unfortunately, as with every safari, limited time. Set that now go ahead of us. Oh, there's another one. Nyala everywhere. Now as we scoot along the clearing, Tiara, you were wondering why was that a tortoise lying in the middle of the road? Well, as I said, they've just started to come out because of the rain. They've come to get some water, they've come to have a drink. And tortoises are capable of storing water, but not for indefinite periods of time. So they have a big, almost like a bladder in their bodies, and that's where they store their food. Store their water. But it doesn't last forever, and that little tortoise is coming out to find some grass to eat and find some water to drink. And just happened to be walking across the road as we were. Could also be, you never know, but it could also be a female looking for somewhere to lay eggs, or maybe looking for another tortoise to mate with. Now, the amazing thing about tortoises is that the temperature of their eggs will determine which way, whether it's a male or a female that hatches. So they dig a hole and they bury their eggs inside the hole and they cover it up again. And depending on if it's hot, if they're close to the top, then they get plenty of sun. If they're down at the bottom, then it's a bit cooler. That will determine whether they're a boy or a girl. Now, Isabel, you saw how amazing those markings are, and you were wondering why they have them. The answer is because it helps to camouflage them. Believe it or not, especially in big patches, big thick patches of grass, you would never ever know that they're there. Now, we need to find the sneaky leopard, so keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to drive nice and slowly around here, and let's see if we can figure out exactly where she is. Check in the trees. Now, leopards are beautifully camouflaged with those spots of theirs, but they have one thing that gives them away, and that's that flash of white around their tail. That's generally a very good way to spot a leopard. Let's see if we can get that flash of white somewhere. It was stormy last night, it was very windy. Perfect weather for a leopard to hunt. I'm just coming round the corner. And I think I'm going to end up answering Ewa's question. We found some evidence to tell us about this leopard, and I'm going to show you what I mean in a moment. Let's approach nice and slowly. You wanted to know if they're carcasses? Well, I have something that is very sad to see, but it is very much a part of nature. Move in so that Jeandre can show you. Very sad to see, but we have the leopard's breakfast. An impala that she's caught sometime last night that she's put into the tree to keep it out of reach of other predators. Now, the secret is, where could this leopard be hiding? She's not in the tree with her breakfast. Where could she be? Keep your eyes peeled. Let's see if you can spot her. She's not going to go far. She's not hungry at the moment, but she's not going to go far away from it. Where is she? Aha! seen her. I'm not sure if you have yet. Let me get around to show you. Can you believe it? I'm facing her. I'm going to approach nice and slowly. She's on a nice clear area to see her. I'm not going to move too close. Have you guys spotted her yet? Let's see if Jeandre can show you where she is. She's being kind to us. She's right out in the open. And here is the beautiful Karula. And Karula means peace. Now, Karula is what she is known as the Queen of Djuma around here. A beautiful, beautiful leopard. She's 11 years old and she rules over this whole part of Djuma as her territory. Keeps all the other female leopards out, but she's surrounded by the daughters that she's had over the years. How exciting is this? We get to see a leopard. For those of you who really wanted to, I'm glad that we spotted her. She's looking very full and very, very relaxed. Our Karula is an incredibly bright and courageous leopard. She's learned clearly that if she leaves her food on the ground, something is going to come along and steal it. Now, the secret of leopards is that they're actually pretty much scared of all of the other big carnivores. They're chased away by lions, hyenas, even wild dog will chase a leopard away. So she's had to learn that in order to look after herself and keep her food safe, she's got to pull it into a tree. What's incredible is the fact that she probably weighs the same as that impala does, and yet she has the strength to put it in her mouth and climb up the trees with her claws and pull it up there. Now, of course, it's always sad to see, but there are lots and lots of impala around here, and not that many leopards at the most. I know that Megan Rains, you were wondering why she hasn't eaten her breakfast yet, and I think the answer is that at the moment she just cannot fit any more. She cannot fit one more mouthful in her. Her belly is very, very distended. It's not as clear when she's lying down, but she definitely looks a little bit like she's swallowed a balloon or a beach ball or something. And it's that amazing ability of all the big cats, cheetah, leopard, lion, when they get a chance to eat, they eat as much as they can, as quickly as they can, in a way that actually pushes their organs up and pushes up against their lungs, into their diaphragm, which is why quite often you'll see them panting, also with all of that heat, because digesting all that meat makes them very, very hot. It's like you guys, if you have a really big meal, maybe on Christmas, or have a big family lunch, and you feel so full and exhausted afterwards, that's what she's feeling like. She probably will go up and have a snack on it in a moment, maybe sometime in the next few hours, and she might even head down then to the dam and have a quick drink. She is looking incredibly relaxed. Now, that hunt would also have taken an enormous amount of energy out of her. Impalas are not slow, and they are very strong, and they obviously fight back. And she would probably have crept up stealthily using her camouflage. Now, Jessica, you were wondering about why leopards have rosettes just like her and cheetahs have spots, because that's the way around. You can see a little bit of the rosettes on her side, and the answer is it's just different evolutions of the same technique. They both use the spots as a way of camouflage. You might find that because leopards do a lot of their hunting at night, it works a bit better with the rosettes. The camouflage works a bit better with the rosettes, as opposed to cheetah, which hunt during the day. Now, I'll tell you something fascinating. cheetah hunt during the day, and you know those dark stripes that run down the inside of their eyes that look like tears where the path runs down? That is so that if they are hunting during the day and they're running into the sun, it doesn't make them feel like they have to squint. It takes away some of the glare, it absorbs some of the glare. But for a leopard like Karula, she's got the opposite. She's got white stripes under her eyes. I know, Addie, you were wondering how many cubs Karula has had. And Gabby, you were wondering how many cubs Karula has had. And the answer is I'm actually not too sure, but there have been a good couple of generations. There was 2 with Shadow and a twin, and I think it's somewhere around the region of 9 cubs, and it's incredible because she's been such a successful mother. I want you to really enjoy the beauty and the peace of an animal like this. I hope that as many of you as possible will have a chance to come out and visit and experience this. I'm glad that we could bring you this little bit of Africa first thing on a Monday morning. There's nothing like, for me, the feeling of love that I have for this place and the animals out here, and I hope that I can encourage all of you to share that with me. Have a wonderful day, ladies. I hope you have had a good game drive, and we hope to have you back again sometime. But grade 2, enjoy the rest of your school day and have a wonderful time. From myself and Jeandre, bye-bye for now.